Hello and welcome to another episode of On Your Mark. Today I'm playing Operation Oedipus, Glory of Our Empire by Archon von Evilsatan. I love that name. Also known as Uberschwanen on the forums. This is an arc from levels 41 to 50, featuring 5 missions full of Malta. I know that right there is enough to put some people off, but I persevere. My contact today is an elusive man named Vasily, who contacts you by placing a prepaid phone in locker number 27 at Atlas Park Station. Personally, I thought that was a pretty good hook to get me interested in this arc. He's not a superhero, but an intellectual who has a brilliant master plan to help take down the Malta, or at least deal a massive blow to them, and I'm going to be a big part of that plan. I thought Vasily was a fairly well-developed character, with an interesting backstory that's slowly shared to you throughout the arc, through his dialogue and a couple long mission-begin clues. The first 2 missions are fairly similar. I start with taking down some computers and taking out a Malta boss, and move on to the second mission and take out a few more Malta bosses. One thing that was pretty well done on both of these missions, as well as most of the arc, is that the objectives are well placed to create a nice story flow within each mission, with minimal to no backtracking. Either that or I was just lucky on both of my runs. I especially like the placing of the 4 Malta bosses in the corners of the end room on the second mission. Mission 3 was where I was starting to get what I call mission fatigue. It's the 3rd map with nothing but Malta, and this mission has a grand total of 15 required objectives and a few optional ones. 8 of those objectives are bomb glowies clustered nicely together in a single room, and the rest are spread out through a large map that takes quite a while to get through solo. I will note that I never had to do much, if any, backtracking, and if I was playing this with a team, it might feel a little less tiresome and a little more interesting. Mission 4 is probably my favorite mission in this arc. It's the smallest map out of all 5 missions, but it still uses some nice chain objectives to really help sell the fact that Vasily is infiltrating the Malta. And the final mission ends with another objective overload, with 11 different objectives and a few optional ones, even though 6 of those are a group of glowies. There's a handful of kidnapped heroes that serve as minor relief to the unending supply of Malta for you to rescue or in some cases fight. This also makes one of the most frustrating things about Malta into a possible major headache. There are a few patrols that are nothing but sappers running around. If you catch a group of them by themselves, they can lock you down, but they'll take forever to kill you. And if you run into some during another battle, they can be pure death if you're not well prepared for them. I enjoyed this arc for the most part. It has an interesting story with a lot of stuff going on in all the missions. Unfortunately, it can be a little bit too much, with a case of objective overkill and too much Malta with too little variation, especially if you're playing solo. I don't really want to recommend adding in a different enemy group besides Malta, because this story really is all about Malta. Though it might help if the kidnapped and raid-conditioned heroes were spread out throughout all the missions instead of grouped up all in the last mission. I'd also consider toning down the number of objectives a little bit, especially some of the repeated ones. Again, it can be a fine line, and there's a fair bit of personal preference mixed in, but at least cutting down some of the repeated objectives and dropping one or more of the maps to one size smaller can go a long way in reducing the mission fatigue that I was feeling by the end of this arc. I would recommend giving this arc a shot as long as you don't mind a Malta challenge. Until next time!